Erev Tov, we find ourselves the week of the portion of Truma, in which we have the commandment V'asuli migdash v'shachanti b'seicham, that they will make for me. Hashem commands us a sanctuary, and He, Hashem, will dwell within it. And this is exactly what we are doing when we get together every week, and we have our weekly class, weekly shir, and we have our weekly story. We're literally making Hashem a dwelling place in this mundane world, in the lowest of the low. We're talking about the cybernet. You can't get more mundane, perhaps. I don't know. We're talking about stones. Stones and wood. That cybernet. It's not even something that you can see. And here we also want to mention that the class this week we are dedicating in honor of the yortzeit of our participant Rav Yaakov, our previous. I'm sure that in heaven he's participating every week anyway. But Rav Yaakov Yisroel ben Tzvi Hirsch, and in the merit of his neshama, and we strongly have the trust and the belief that he will be with us immediately now, a neshama in a body, a soul in a body, on a revealed basis, in the third and the eternal Beis Hamikdash, with the Geula Hashlema Vamitis, the true and the complete redemption, salvation. Some people wanted to go and to correct me about that, but whatever. As long as we understand where we're meeting, that's the main thing, and when we're meeting, and who we're meeting. The Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach, Teichef Umiyad Mamish, Mamish, Mamish. We also want to mention, and as the Rebbe mentions in the Sichos of Hanukkah, when we speak about the miracles that Hashem is performing for us here in this mundane world, this brings closer the big and the greatest miracle that Hashem is going to perform immediately now, the Geula Shlema Vamitis. We were speaking about it before with Rav Yisroel Ber, the miraculous rescue with no deals with the Samach Mem, with the Yetzer Hara, with the Hamasim Machshmam Zichram. A unbelievable, miraculous miracle. Our soldiers were in the battlefield. They were going from house to house, from building to building, and they captured terrorists, and they were literally were able to rescue 2 of the hostages that were still kept in captivity there in Gaza. And Baruch Hashem, well, first of all, we have to thank Hashem. We glorify and thank Hashem for this wonderful miracle, and we are sure, with no doubt, that this is the beginning of the month of Adar. We find ourselves in the beginning days of the month of Adar, as we have learned. The month of Adar, Mazolei Bori, the mazel, the fortune, and the revelation of godliness in this month is healthy and tokif, and it is assertive. So we will continue to see, and we will see it on a complete basis, the redemption and the rescue of all the hostages, and the ridding of Am Yisrael from all the enemies around, not only in Eretz Yisrael, in the Holy Land, but all over the world, worldwide. And this should be immediately now. This was, we see, miraculously, midah keneged midah. It was measure for measure, because the girls of these 2 hostages, who were originally from Argentina, those girls, they traveled with their mother and their uncle. They traveled weeks ago. They traveled to the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach in Crown Heights, and they not only were they there, but they also took upon themselves good resolutions. The 2 girls, they took upon themselves the lighting of Shabbos and Yontif candles, B'li Neder, and and their uncle that was with them also put on tefillin at that opportunity. And literally, we see, after they returned to Eretz Yisrael, within a short period of time, everything was turned around, and their fathers The fathers of the two girls were rescued, as we just mentioned. Getting to our that was the miracle of in actuality that we always try to mention. We're getting back to our exclusive story for tonight. We're coming from the parsha of Mishpatim, and the beginning of the parsha of Mishpatim begins Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tosim lifnehem. These are the laws that you shall place before them. And one of my favorite stories, because of the fact that we're here in the Kabbalistic city of Tzfat, and I have the merit, the schus, to deal with the Kabbalistic teachings in the Zohar and in Hasidic philosophy. The Zohar HaKodesh, the Holy Zohar, comes and in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it teaches us that these words, the Eila HaMishpatim asher tosim lifneim, these are the laws that you will place before them. The Zohar comes and says, the Elaine Razin Gulgolta Dimnishmasa. These are the secrets of the incarnations of the soul. These are the secrets of the incarnation of the soul. Incarnations. And if it sounds like like we don't understand the connection between these are the laws that you place before them and what the Zohar says, that it has to do with the incarnations of the souls, we're not in such a bad company. Why? Because this question went back hundreds of years ago, and this is the exact question that the great maggid of Mezeritch, Rav Dov of Mezeritch, asked his mentor, the holy Rabbi Yisroel Ba'al Shemtov. He came and he asked him, what is the connection? It doesn't seem that it's likely any connection that the Zohar comes and makes between the incarnations of souls and the laws of the Torah that are placed before the Jewish people, and the judging of the laws of the Torah that are placed before the Jewish people. The Baal Shem Tov immediately came. The Baal Shem Tov immediately replied to his prodigy student, the maggid of Mezeritch. He said, take yourself and immediately go to the outskirts of town. There at the outskirts of town, there's a beautiful river, and there's a pasture on the bank of the river. And on the other side of the pasture, there's a very thick woods, very thick forest. And hide yourself in the bushes in the woods, and just make sure that no one sees you and no one knows that you're there. And simply take in everything that you see that is going to be happening in front of your eyes. The maggid, without asking any questions, did exactly what his Rebbe told him. He went and he hid on the outskirts of town, in the bushes, in the thick of the woods, and then all of a sudden, the act started to unfold in front of his eyes. Well, there was a very wealthy man that arrived. He took off his overcoat and he went over to the riverbank. He washed his hands, washed his face, and he came back and sat down in the pasture and started to eat. He finished his food. He was tired. He fell asleep. Then he woke up and he gathered his things together and he left. After this, the maggid saw an additional individual that arrived at the pasture. This person too took off his overcoat and was about to go to wash his face and his hands in the waters of the river, but to his surprise, in the pasture, in the blades of grass, he saw something that he couldn't overlook. He saw a wallet with wads, very thick wallet with wads of bills and coins, gold coins inside of it. He opened it up and looked at it, and there was no name, there were no simonim, there were no signs of who it belonged to. He took the wallet and he took his coat and he ran as fast as he could. Then the maggid sees a third person, a third individual. after this person that arrived, that took the wallet and left, who seemed to be a very poor person with the raggedy clothes, left with the wallet. A very prominent individual arrived in the pasture, and he looked so honorable. He looked like a rabbi. And this rabbi took off his overcoat. He went to the river, washed his face and his hands, came back, and he sat down, and he was going to start to eat. As he was beginning to take a first bite from his food, the first person returned. The first person, the wealthy person, returned to the pasture. He looked at the person, this prominent person, and he said, "Listen here, you. Did you see a wallet over here?" He said, "Wallet? I don't understand. I just arrived here. I washed my face, and I'm sitting down to eat. I didn't see any wallet." And the wealthy person suspected him. He was suspicious that of this person, of this prominent person, and he said, "Listen, you must have seen it. I left it here. It fell out of my pocket." And then, so the wealthy person doesn't leave this prominent person alone, and he starts looking. He starts searching in his bags. He searches in his coat, and when he saw that he didn't find the wallet, so he got very angry. And he looked at the prominent rabbinical person, and he said, "You must have hid it somewhere. I know that you found my wallet." And he started to really smack him up and beat this prominent person until he was literally, blood was coming out of him. After he smacked him up and he didn't get anywhere with the search for his wallet, he left him lying in the pasture, and he picked up and left. The maggid, witnessing this entire episode, he was really shocked, but at the same time, he still didn't understand the connection. How is this connected with the laws of the Torah, the incarnations of the souls? Where does all of this come into place? So the maggid went back to the Ba'al Shemtov, and told him that he's still stumped as far as the connection between the two are concerned. The Ba'al Shemtov said, "Sit down and I'll explain." And then the Ba'al Shemtov started to explain the following. He said, in a previous incarnation, these two people, the first and the last, the wealthy man that lost his wallet, and the prominent, and the second person, the poor dressed person that came and found the wallet, they were partners in the previous incarnation, and they had an argument, a dispute in money. And what happens between two Jews when they have a dispute? They go to the Rav, they go to the rabbi. They went to the rabbi, and they put their case in front of the rabbi. The rabbi heard what each of them had to say, and apparently he was in a rush, so he literally judged according to what he heard, without looking it up in the books, in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Jewish code of law. And because he knew basically the laws that apply to this kind of situation, and he told the person that appeared as the poor person, the partner that appeared in this case as the poor person, that he has to pay his partner who appeared in this story as the wealthy person, he has to pay him money. And later on, years afterwards, both of them, their souls went up to heaven. And not only did these partners go up to heaven, but the rabbi that judged them, the dayan, the judge, also he passed away, and his soul went up to heaven. And they were all standing in front of the heavenly court. And the heavenly court started to go into these cases, the history of these three neshamas. And they came to this story that we just heard. And the heavenly court came and said that the verdict that the rabbi came to in before he passed away was an incorrect verdict. It was a wrong judgment. And he took the money out of the wrong partner and put it in the hands of the partner that did not deserve it. And therefore, since the judgment was not correct, so these two souls were judged to come down again into the world. And when they would come down again, one would be a wealthy person. This was the person that received the money in the previous lifetime. And what will be a very poor person? This is the person that received the money, that the money was taken out of from his jurisdiction in the previous lifetime. And these people will come together. One will come and after the other. The wealthy person that the money, he received the money in an inappropriate judgment. He'll lose his money, he'll lose his wallet, and the poor person that the money was taken from inappropriately will find the money, find this wallet, and that's it. Shalom al Yisrael. The money will be returned to the partner that was judged unlawfully. But that wasn't the end of the story, because we still have the third neshama of the rabbi. And then they started to judge the rabbi, and they told him, listen, you judged wrong, and therefore the verdict is that your soul has to come down again. And the rabbi tried to explain that he was under great pressure, and under the circumstances, there was an emergency in his home, and he was pressed for time, and he wasn't able to go and to look up the laws properly. But with all the excuses that the rabbi gave, the fact was a fact that he judged inappropriately, and therefore his neshama was also judged to come down again into this world. Who was his neshama? This was the third individual, the prominent-looking person, the rabbi, that came at the end. And what was the verdict? That he will receive punishment for judging the case inappropriately. And who was the one that gave him the punishment? The person that the money he received unlawfully. The wealthy person came back, and he was the one that smacked up the prominent person until he was literally bleeding. Here, the Baal Shemtov comes and tells the maggid, and this is something that we have to know, not only as a story once upon a time, but this is something that's happening here and now, right before our eyes. We see many things and we hear many things that are going on, occurrences, episodes in our lives, things that we see that in our everyday life, and we don't understand what is going on. Hashem is seemingly punishing those that are due to reward, and rewarding those that are due to punishment. Do we understand? Do we know what is going on? The answer is, and this is what the Baal Shemtov told the maggid, we don't know the background for all the things that are going on in front of our eyes. We can't even fathom what is the occurrences, what are the occurrences that these souls went through in their previous Gilgul, in their previous incarnation, let alone we don't know what was going on with the same exact person that we are witnessing right now an hour ago or yesterday. We don't know. We don't have any idea. And therefore, we have to understand and to trust and to believe that the great judge of justice, Hashem, the Holy One, blessed be He is judging everything in the appropriate manner, and in the manner of justice, in the manner of honesty, and we have to accept. Sometimes it's difficult to accept, but we accept everything that Hashem does for the good and for the better. And sometimes we don't see also the goodness in front of our eyes. This goodness is hidden and concealed goodness. Just to end this episode of the story, this story also has to do with the story of Purim. How does it have to do with the story of Purim? It's taught that the story between Yaakov and Esav, when Yaakov met up with Esav when he was coming back from Haran, after he already married his wives, and he had the 12 tribes. So when he met up with Esav finally, after he had prayed and he sent his presents of appeasement, so he wanted to go in to honor his brother. So it says that he bowed down in front of Esav as a welcoming 7 times. And the Torah comes and teaches us that due to the fact that he bowed down 7 times, which was not, it was not appropriate for Yaakov to bow down to Esav, this had a ramification, and it was decreed upon that the kingdom of the Jewish nation will not start to reign until there will be 7 kings from the nation of Esav, which is Edom, that will reign. And this is exactly where the Torah tells us, Vayimloch Vayamis, Vayimloch Vayamis, that there were 7 kings from the children, from the from the children of Esav that reigned, and they were kings, and they died. And it was one after the other, until afterwards it was allowed that there will be a kingship for the nation of Israel. Many generations afterwards, when the Jewish nation was already exiled to Babylon, and from Babylon the Persian Empire went and conquered the Babylonian Empire, and we see that Achashverosh was the king, and he went and he appointed Haman Harasha, the wicked Haman, as his one of his viceroys. We're told that Haman wanted every single individual in the empire to bow, upon seeing him, to bow down to him. There was one individual, with the exception of one individual, that did not only did he not bow down, he would not even kneel to Haman Harasha, to the Haman the wicked. Who was this? As we know, it was Mordechai HaYehudi, Mordechai the Jew, who was also a high-ranking minister in the empire of the Persian Empire of Achashverosh, the king. Now, what was it so important? Well, the commentaries say that he was wearing a getchke, was wearing, he had an idol that was hanging from his neck, and so people, when they bowed down, they were bowing down to an idol. But at the same time, why was it so important to mention that Mordechai would not bow down? He wouldn't even kneel. Why? And it's explained that Haman and Mordechai HaYehudi were incarnations. And Haman HaRasha, who was not only an incarnation, as we're told, of Esav, Yaakov's brother, but he was also from the children of Esav, because we're told Haman came from the seed of Amalek, that was from the seed of Esav. And who was Mordechai HaYehudi in his previous incarnation? He was the soul of Yaakov Avinu. And this was the rectification. In the story of Purim, this was the rectification for Yaakov's bowing down 7 times. That Mordechai would not only not bow down to Haman Harasha, the wicked, but he wouldn't even kneel. And this is something that we have to learn, we have to understand, and we have to implement in our daily lives. Not only that we should not bow down, chas v'sholem, to the evil in the world. We shouldn't even entertain the thoughts of the evil of the world in our minds, let alone speak about it. And this is our rectification, and this is the way that we finally bring about the turnaround of the story of Purim here now in our day and age. That la Yehudim haisa ora v'simcha v'sosan v'ikar, the Jews in those days of Purim had ora, light, sosan, happiness, and joy, v'ikar, and glory. Kain tihiyeh lanu, so should also be for us, teichef umyad, with the golas of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach on a good and revealed basis. Yechi Adonenu Morenu v'Rabbeinu HaMelech Ha'Moshiach le'olam voed. And everyone is invited to stay on for our second part of the shir in the Dvar Malchus. Kol Tuv.